been a councillor for quite a while now. Can you give us a bit about your background and what brought you into politics?
Local politics, indeed.
Mm.
So I started as an elected councillor in 2012. At that time, well, actually, we'll wind back a little bit. I'll start with me as what got me into politics. Um, I grew up in mid Cornwall, in a place called St Austell, and throughout my early school years or my secondary school years, I became quite interested in local politics. Did my work experience with the MP, who's a chap called Matthew Taylor, who was the local Liberal Democrat MP down there, and became a member of the youth party of the Lib Dems. Moved to Bridgend in 2007. Started my family here. So my children, my second child was born in Bridgend, and obviously have gone through the schools here. In 2011, I was out of politics for quite some time. I got absolutely infuriated by the then council's decision to award a very stupid contract, in my view, to Cllr, who were dealing with recycling at the time, and use those lovely little black buckets that we had to put all of the plastic and all of the paper in. And every time we got a bit of wind, the whole of my community was covered in rubbish. And it may sound like something really inconsequential to get you moving and get you motivated to start trying to do something. But I wrote to the local councillor for Broadlands at the time, who was a chap called Wayne Morgan, who was a Liberal Democrat, and didn't like his response very much. So at the time, I've been out of politics for a while. David Cameron was the leader of the Conservatives at the time, and I kind of got taken away by Liberal conservatism, which is definitely a thing of the past these days. And joined the Conservatives, and I stood against Wayne Morgan in that election, and did exactly what was said I would do, and cost Wayne Morgan his seat and let a Labour councillor take it. And unfortunately, very much in my seat, you vote Conservative, you let Labour win.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
And Siri decided to get involved in that as well. So that's a bit of kind of where I came from. 2012 really was my first year. It was a baptism of fire, I can tell you, being the only Conservative councillor at the time sitting on Ballaston Community Council, which was essentially a Liberal Democrat and Labour council. There was those two parties and me, yeah, that was fun. 2012, really there was lots and lots of change in Bridgend. I don't know whether you remember. I'm going to share my screen with you just so you can see it, but this is what happened in 2012 in Bridgend. We had the Labour Party, or the Welsh Labour government, actually talk about downgrading hospital services across Wales. And we were part of the South Wales plan. Don't know whether you remember that, Luke.
Yes, I remember. They were looking to merge hospitals, weren't they? And
they certainly were. And what they suggested was either Prince Charles Hospital in Merthyr, the Royal Glamorgan in Llantrisant, or Bridgend, Princess of Wales, would lose some of its services. So in October 2012, I began a big campaign on Facebook. And this was really close to my heart because my eldest daughter was born with 3 small holes in her heart. And the thought of, thankfully, not life-threatening, but the thought of it being life-threatening and having a child born in Bridgend and not having those services there. And if you think about the valleys, you think about all of the transportation links coming down to Bridgend, they're bad enough anyway. To try and get that to Merthyr or to the Royal Glam was just ridiculous. So I started this campaign. And that very much began on Facebook, and it was, just to keep Bridgend's services and everything completely intact, keeping the A&E, keeping the children's ward, keeping the special babies unit, and the consultant-led births. So paediatrics, obstetrics, and the other one that I've completely forgotten, and you have to forgive me.
It was A&E, wasn't
neonatal.
it?
There we are. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And this is what happened basically. So in 2012, 2013, I held a cross-party meeting with Clyde, with the Conservatives, with the Liberal Democrats, against this absolute abomination of a plan, and got quite a bit of press coverage. And in 2013, we were successful. Bridgend Hospital was deemed to be the regional centre. I've got to say, it was still an absolutely horrendous plan, but they kept their regional centre status. The A&E wasn't under threat, and we kept all of our services. So that was really me, Luke, and what got me into politics. Now I'm just trying to work out how to unshare my screen, because I use Zoom so often, which is always good.
I haven't got a clue. Right, we might have to stick with that for the rest of the.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Right, is yours still there? Oh no, that's not there. There we go.
Do you know, there's a trick there, Luke. The joy of using Teams is that I've got a little X. When I use Zoom, I should have seen the big red flashing light at the top that said stop sharing. But there we go. The joys of working from home, eh?
Yes, it's quite funny because when I spoke to Alex and Martin and now yourself, everybody seems to have that little one thing that starts that niggle of saying, well, something's not right here. With you, it's the waste contract, and with Martin and Alex, it was other things. Now, what got me started really interested in standing locally was, I don't know if you remember, I think it was back in late 2015, 2016, opposite Ravens Court, they changed the pedestrian lighting system. They went from straight across to diagonal, or the other way around, one of the two.
Yeah.
And when they did that, they laid it all down, took a few weeks, they relayed the road and then painted the lines. Less than 2 weeks later, they dug up that part of the road again and relayed it and painted the lines. It was the fact that you could see how much waste was going on around the county, and there was always this thing of, we don't have enough money, we need to save 30 million in the next 5 years, or this amount in the next so many years. I just thought, well, if you did plan things properly and looked at contracts properly, then you wouldn't have all this waste, and that money could go to saving for what you need, which it really is bugbear of mine, that you can see the amount of waste going on, how many times they relay roads when they've only dug it up 6 months before and relay.
I think the problem is with the way services and everything are all segregated. Joined up thinking just doesn't seem to even come into it, does it?
No, and the other thing, I see that coming towards the next financial year, if they've got a pot of money left over, they've got to use it or not get the equivalent amount on the next one. Why should they have to use that? That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean,
unless they can show they've got a plan for that money, just put it into something you've got a long-term plan for.
Do you know, Luke, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, as you know, we were talking just before we started recording about the A48 campaign, and the tragedy that was obviously resulted from the death of Bruce Rubery. And Bridgend Council, the Highways Department, they applied for funding from the Welsh Government to do some work on the A48 and obviously down to the A473. And I find it absolutely remarkable that we can tarmac over roundabouts to create cycle routes when cyclists would clearly just go round the roundabout. I mean, I can't imagine anyone having a picnic in the middle of the roundabout, can you?
No.
Rather than actually spending that money on improving road safety at pinch points where it's most definitely needed.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the amount of times I see somebody trying to turn right out of Merthyr Road
Yeah.
and cross the A48, and the signage is rubbish. They paid for new signage. They thought that putting 2 extra signs up and taking the road speed down to 50 was actually going to do anything. You needed to put safe crossings. I mean, we've had the blessing this summer holidays of some great weather, and the amount of times I've seen kids run across that road from Newbridge Fields across to the other side to get to the Dipping Bridge.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And the answer from the council seemed to be to use the old cattle underpass. Well, common sense tells you kids are going to take the shortest route possible.
Yeah.
And the shortest route possible is straight across the road.
Yeah, and they don't
But
think about things like that. They don't see the perceived dangers like adults do now. We've got
no.
wisdom, and we see, right, that car's going a bit fast. Let's wait a second.
Indeed.
But there should be there. You've got a major housing estate right on the edge of that A48. There should be a crossing at least with pedestrian lights there.
Well, for as long as I've been a councillor, there's been talk of doing something with that road. I mean, Bridgend County seem to enjoy putting traffic lights on roundabouts. So I'm absolutely amazed we haven't had traffic lights on the Broadbent roundabout yet. But you're quite right. I mean, we've got 2,500 houses here. Common sense says people are going to get out, they're going to walk. We're right on the edge of the rural community. Really, the place that we're going to go and walk is we're going to go to Merthyr and we're going to go to the Dipping Bridge and we're going to go that way.
And to the sand dunes that are not far
Indeed.
off either.
I mean, what a beautiful part of the world we live in.
I know. Beautiful.
And you want to go out, you want to explore that countryside, and you've got to take your life in your hands across the A48 to get there. I mean, we go back to joined up thinking that could have been paid for by the developers when they built this estate. Instead, they let the developers get away with as little as possible, and what we still have are 12 years on, unadopted, well, in fact, more than 12 years on, unadopted parts of the estate where we've actually got Monmouthshire Council working on behalf of Persimmon cutting grass.